Okay, this is OCR January 12 question about cross-elasticity of demand. And if you look at the paper, it was to do with therapeutic gum, which helped people to stop smoking, and whether the price of that going up would affect the demand for traditional gum. And so the first question was a define cross-elasticity, and as I say, here you've got to recognise that it's the demand for one good changing when there's a change in the price of a related good. One of the key things that people get wrong sometimes is they don't say it's response to a change in price, they just say it's how something is affected by the price of the other good. You must say it's a change in price. So the best way to handle that is to put the formula down first. Remember the change in the quantity demanded of good X over the change in the price of good Y. Then talk about it in terms of explaining that formula by saying it's the responsiveness of the demand, but remember you must say when there is a change in the price of a related product. And in this case I think it's quite useful to apply it to the case study to get you going, and you show them that you understand from the table that it's the change in the price of the therapeutic gum which has had an effect on the demand for the traditional gum. The second part of the question was this: using information in the figure, comment on. And whenever you see comment on, you must analyse first. If you don't analyse, then you can't pick up the comment marks. And this is whether they are substitutes. That's the hook in the question. And nowadays they are saying include all relevant calculations. Whenever you get the data, do the calculation. Okay, and when you do the calculation, what you found was that these data here, the 20, the 10, the 5, were the increases in the price of the therapeutic gum, and this then was the effect on the demand for the traditional gum. So in the first instance, if the price of therapeutic went up by 5%, it only led to a 0.5% increase in the demand for traditional gum. Now, one of the mistakes that people make is that because you're using percentages here, you will put a percentage sign in here. So you mustn't do that. That's one key thing with elasticities. They never come out as percentages. They're always a number. And always get used to putting the sign in. Is it a positive or is it a negative? And this is the same for income elasticity, cross elasticity, all the other ones except for the price and the price elasticity of supply. And then answering the question says they are substitutes. That was the question, are they? Why? Because they are always positive. And then that's a statement, that's just a learnt statement. So the best thing to do there is this, to explain that statement. This means that, and then just to tell the examiner what it means. So in this case, when the price of the therapeutic rises, the demand for the therapeutic falls, and so therefore the demand for traditional gum rises if they are substitutes. You've got to go through that to explain rather than just state. Then you can say, as the figures are below 1, so now we're coming on to looking at the size of the data. So you first look at the sign, and then you look at the size. And it says, because they're below 1, it implies that they are inelastic. And then explain what that means, i.e. it doesn't respond a lot. The demand doesn't respond a lot to a change in the price. Remember, keep going back to the change in the price. This is where you make small mistakes. Now that you've analysed the data, you can start to comment. And so the first one is that because they're low numbers, then basically you're going to find that they are weak substitutes. And then say what that means. Well, this means that the users of the therapeutic gum, when the price goes up, they may be using it just to stop your smoking. And so they will not switch to the traditional gum. And maybe the chewing gum, the therapeutic chewing gum, you see, was not the main reason they bought it. They didn't buy their therapeutic chewing gum in order to chew gum, they bought it to stop smoking. So why would they switch to traditional? There may be other influences on the demand. This is the ceteris paribus thing that you can say. There's always other influences on the demand for additional gum, not just the price of substitutes. So give them some examples. You know, there may be more advertising for it or something. And that the figures may have been affected by these things, not the price of the therapeutic gum. And lastly, always say the figures are estimates. In this case, you've got a mark for this. They may change over time. They may be unreliable. Now, in this particular case, January 12, you've got a mark for saying that, a mark for saying they may change, and a mark for saying unreliable. Increasingly, the examiner is capping these points here, estimates, at about 1 or 2 marks. So don't rely on this. Always try and apply to the case study.